was all a kid once? Anybody? A couple people? All right, I want you on the count of 3 to all tell me, okay, let me just add a little bit of context here. Everybody has like that thing that they wanted to be growing up. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, everyone think of that in your mind, okay? When you're a kid, you're like 7 and you want to be this one thing. Okay, on the count of 3, I want to hear it. 1, 2, 3. Those are all really good, guys. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. For as long as I can remember, I've loved airplanes. Boys all have their thing, right? Sometimes it's trains, sometimes it's cars. Well, mine was planes. Like, my dad would take us to air shows. We would go to air museums. Sometimes on the weekends, when it was a dad day, dads, you know what I'm talking about, right? We got to get out of the house. Like, we got to go do something. It's a dad day. We're going to go to McDonald's, and we're going to go sit at Lunken Airport, and we're going to watch the planes fly by while we're eating our dinner. Like, that's the kind of home that I was raised in. So from the time that I can remember, all the way up until my freshman year of college, I said, I'm going to be a fighter pilot. I had this dream. And it wasn't like I was taking steps toward that dream. In college, I was studying flight science to be a pilot so I could have my commercial license by the time I finished. I was also in Air Force ROTC to be a fighter pilot. And my freshman year of college at Western Michigan, go Broncos, halfway through the year, we had to go and take a flight medical. And at this medical, oftentimes if you had, bad eyes, or if you're too tall, if you're too short, or they categorize you based on this medical. So this was like step 2 or 3 into my process of being a fighter pilot. So I'm driving there. It's in Battle Creek. And I'm on the highway, and I remember this very vividly. I'm feeling really nervous about it too. It's a big deal. And you know how like you're having thoughts one way? And then all of a sudden there's a thought that comes straight this way. Well, I was thinking, man, this is cool. This is crazy. I love doing this. I'm so excited. I'm a little scared because there's a chance that like maybe I'm too tall or can't see good enough. And all of a sudden it's like I get a thought that says, don't go. Huh? I'm convinced that that's how God speaks to us sometimes. He said, don't go. So I pulled over my car. There are cars going 75 miles an hour blaring past me, and I call my dad just sobbing. I can't go, Dad. He's like, what are you talking about? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. So I turned my little butt around and went home. Dropped out of college, and now I'm here. This does not look like the cockpit of an F-16. We all have dreams, right? I had this big dream. It was loud. It was in your face. I had the passion. I had the Top Gun soundtrack. You know, we all have these dreams in our life. We all have things that we want to do. And I want to add some clarity around what I'm talking about when I'm talking about dreams. I'm not talking about like wishful thinking or some like vague idea of success. I'm talking about like your purpose in life, your calling in life. That God-given sense that your life is supposed to matter and you're supposed to do something with it. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Sometimes those dreams feel out of reach, but still you're like pushing and striving toward it. When I was growing up, I thought, like, okay, this dream's gonna be a straight line. God give it to me, I'm gonna pursue it, and I'm gonna get it. That works, right, all the time. It's very straight and narrow. You know exactly what's gonna happen. No. After I drove home, these questions kept on popping up in my head. Did I miss it? Did I mess it up? Was this dream, was this thing that I've been thinking about my entire life, the thing that I thought was God-given, was it naive? Was it stupid? And I really don't think, like deep down, I don't think that the dream broke. I don't think it broke beyond repair. It's like, did I break beyond repair? Was it a me problem? So today we're gonna ask and hopefully answer 3 big questions. What do I do when God's calling on my life is delayed, buried, or broken? Second thing is, how can God use me when I feel disqualified by my past? And the third thing is, what if the hard thing I'm facing right now isn't the obstacle, but it's the only way forward? Let's pray. God, soften our hearts this morning. Open up our ears. Lord, give us joy this morning. Give us courage and boldness. Thank you for the opportunity to gather together to worship you. It's your name I pray. Amen. Most of us are walking around with that dream that we've quietly buried. Like anybody, I'm speaking for myself, so I hope you guys resonate with this a little bit. And it's not like we buried them because they weren't from God or that we didn't care, but because oftentimes life gets hard. And we started to believe that that dream had an expiration date. We've planned for it, we've prayed for it, we've trusted for it, and then the relationship fell apart. Or that opportunity disappeared. That addiction came back. The shame crept in. And without even realizing it, we stopped believing that we're the kind of people who could live out a calling like that. So now we keep our expectations low and our hopes guarded because disappointment is a lot easier to manage than hope that gets crushed. But here's the truth. Your past isn't your past if it's still shaping your present and your future. Your past isn't your past if it's still shaping and stealing your present and future. Some of us are stuck in delay, some of us are stuck in disappointment, and some of us have decided to settle. We still believe that God's good, but we're not sure if he's still writing our story. But what if the pain isn't a detour? What if the barrier isn't a roadblock? What if the very thing that's been breaking you is the thing that God is using to build you? And that's the kind of tension that we're living in, and that's why Joseph's story matters. I want to be clear that this is not a roadmap to success. Joseph's story is not 5 easy steps to have your dream come true. It's quite the opposite, actually. He falls in a pit, more like gets pushed in a pit, sold into slavery, went to prison again. It's not a Disney movie. It's not a manifestation. It's not a I'm going to think it and believe it so I can achieve it. Like all these things that we hear from those gurus. It's not about getting everything that we've wanted. It's about learning to trust God with his purpose, even when it looks impossible. Before we jump into the story, though, a couple things. First thing, I'm going to try to get through the entire story of Joseph in 24 minutes and 19 seconds. I don't know when the last time you guys read the story of Joseph, but it is very, very long. Okay, so we're gonna kind of fly through this. To add some context before we jump into the full story, Joseph didn't grow up in like a peaceful spiritual family. He grew up in chaos. His dad, Jacob, had 4 different wives, 12 sons, and 1 favorite. Everyone knows the coat of many colors. It's Joseph. He's got soft hands and doesn't go work in the fields, okay? And his brothers, because he was the favorite, absolutely hated him. Now, there have been times in my life, more specifically like when Ryan, my little brother, and I were eating breakfast one morning, and he is sitting there eating his cereal and looking at me and slurping with every spoonful. We got older siblings in here who know that, like, oh, stop. But I've never been like, hey, Ryan, I want to kill you. Okay? This is what we're stepping into. In verse 4, Genesis chapter 37, verse 4, it says, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. We're talking about a deep-rooted hate. Okay, that household that Joseph is growing up in is marked by jealousy, by rivalry, by spiritual inconsistency, and the world around him, Canaan, is violent, godless, and full of false gods and compromise. So when Joseph shows up at 17 with a dream, he's not stepping into a perfect environment. He's stepping into chaos. So that's where we pick up. Genesis chapter 37, verse 5. You guys got your Bibles? Your phones? I don't know, but I like to read it like right here. I got bad eyes, so I don't. Do with that what you will. We're starting in verse 5, though. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. They already hate him bad. Now they hate him more. He said to them, listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. Ugh. His brothers said to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more. Oh, I lost my spot. Because of his dream and what he had said. Then he had another dream. And he told it to his brothers. Listen, he said, I had another dream. And this time, the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me. When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Joseph had a dream at 17 where his father, his mom, his brothers all bowed down to him. And he told it to him. He let them know. He said it boldly. When I read this story, I'm like, Joseph, shut up. Like, stop. Like, read the room, dude. After Joseph shares his dreams, things get quiet, rightfully so. His brothers leave for Shechem to tend flocks, and Joseph stays home because he's still the favorite, he's still got soft hands, and now he's got a new title, the dreamer. Then one day, his dad says, okay, hey, go check on your brothers. So Joseph goes 50 miles on foot through the desert, through risk, looking for the very people who resent him. He arrives to where he thought they were, but they're gone. Some stranger tells him, hey, like, they're this way. They've moved on to Dothan. So Joseph keeps going. He doesn't know it yet, but he's not walking necessarily just toward his brothers. He's walking toward betrayal. He's walking toward a deviated path as to what he thinks his life is going to be. From this point on, his life is going to change completely, and he has no idea. He has a plan, and it's about to change drastically. Sometimes God doesn't give you the full picture. He just gives you the next step. And that's what Joseph is doing here. He's just taking the next step, whether he knows it or not. That's where we pick up in chapter 37, verse 18. But they saw him in the distance, his brothers. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Isn't it? That's insane, right? Their own brother. Here he comes, that dreamer, they said. Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams. When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. Let's not take his life, he said. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him. Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the ornate robe he was wearing, and they took him and threw him into the cistern. The cistern was empty, and there was no water in it. As they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan. These guys threw their brother into a hole for him to die and said, you know what, I'm kind of hungry. It's crazy. As they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with spices, balm, and myrrh, and they were on their way to take them down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, what will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood. And his brothers agreed. So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites who took him to Egypt. I have a curious mind, and I was wondering, how much is 20 shekels worth today in US dollars? Does anybody want to guess? Anybody? 20 bucks. It's more than that. It was 80. $80 for their brother, which, all right, but wait, there's 11 of them. So they each got to get their own allotment of the 20 shekels. And the equivalent that each brother got was like $7.27 for their own brother. Those boys couldn't go to McDonald's and get a Big Mac meal for their brother. At least they didn't kill him. So Joseph lands in Egypt in Potiphar's house, and even there, God is with him. He rises, he leads, he succeeds. He is number 2 in the house. But then it all unravels again. Potiphar's wife falsely accuses him. He runs, she flips the story. He ends up back in prison again. But in chapter 39, verse 21, it says, the Lord was with Joseph in prison and showed him kindness. And this is the through line through the entire story of Joseph. It is God is with him, and because God is with him, he will succeed. God is with him, and because God is with him, not because Joseph is good looking, even though he probably was, or strong, or a good leader, or charismatic. It wasn't because any of that. It's because God was with him. Even in the pit, God didn't leave him. In prison, Joseph rises again. He earns favor. He interprets some dreams from a cupbearer. One of the guys is executed, the other one is restored, and Joseph says, hey, cupbearer, I interpreted your dream. Please remember me. Put a good word into Pharaoh. I don't know, could be kind of nice to get out of this prison. And the cupbearer says, hey dude, I got you. You helped me get out of prison. The least I can do is return the favor. So he goes up and then the cupbearer completely forgets about him and 2 years goes by. After those 2 years, he's still in prison. He's still faithful. He's still waiting. And then Pharaoh has a dream. The dream consists of, I'm paraphrasing, 7 fat cows devoured by 7 skinny cows. No one can really explain it. Like Pharaoh calls in all of the magicians, everyone that he knows, all the wisest men he knows to kind of figure out what this dream is. No one can explain it. And finally, the cupbearer remembers. He's like, wait a second. I know a guy that can interpret dreams. Oops. Yeah, his name's Joseph. So Joseph is brought before Pharaoh, and Pharaoh asks, he says, I hear that you can interpret dreams. I heard that you know the answer to my problem. And Joseph responds in the most noble and wise way. He goes, I can't, but my God can. Ooh. How often do we go into our lives when we have these dreams? His dream was just to get out of prison. We have these dreams in our life and we say, I'm gonna just like hold on to it super tight and I'm gonna just like will this into existence. Joseph does the complete opposite and he goes, nah. God, what will you have of me? I can't do this. You can. Use me. So, Joseph is able to interpret the dream. He offers strategy. And then Pharaoh makes him lord over all of Egypt. Genesis 41, 39 through 40 says, since God has made you, this is Pharaoh talking, since God has made all this known to you, you shall be in charge of my palace. From a pit to a palace. From betrayed to entrusted. From forgotten to promoted. Joseph didn't play the game. He didn't force a dream. He trusted God in his pain. And that's where he ended up. So, Pharaoh's dream comes to fruition. There are 7 years of plentiful harvest, 7 years of famine, just as God told Joseph, just as God told Pharaoh. And Joseph ends up facing his brothers in a place of leadership where they are bowing down to him, a fulfillment of his dream. I don't know when the last time you guys read the story of Joseph, but Joseph kind of plays with him a little bit. That's how I interpret it. He gives him the old rigmarole, going back and forth. Hey, go get your dad. Is your dad alive? Not my dad, definitely not my dad. Is your dad alive? You have any younger brothers? Go get him. I'm gonna keep one here. He does this whole thing and then finally reveals himself and he sobs. He loses it so much that everyone in Joseph's house heard it and then Pharaoh heard it. Joseph says, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Joseph's dream was never about power, but it was about purpose. It wasn't about being lifted up, but it was about lifting others up. And it's so cool to see Joseph's ability to interpret his own dreams and other people's dreams shift throughout his life. At the very beginning, it was very me-centric. At the very end, it was God-centric. My family and I moved to northern Indiana in 2010. I was a freshman in high school. I had cool shoes, or at least I thought I had cool shoes. My buddy Alex Hahn had customized these these Nike high tops. Do you guys remember when you guys don't remember, up in the front row. But remember when the Nike Customizer came out? Where you could go on the Nike website and customize your shoes? Well, my buddy Alex did that. And as a parting gift, he's like, Jansen, I want you to take these shoes. I'm like, bro, no way. They're red and black. They're very cool. Too big for me. I shouldn't have been wearing them. And I pull up. It's like the first week. I've gotten lost like 6 times at Penn. And I finally make it to gym, and we're all chilling out, waiting to figure out what we're going to do. And Nate, you know how people, like when people walk in a room, you're like, that dude's pretty cool. He probably has a lot of friends. They're kind of friends. He's probably just walking like this. And he walks by me and he goes, nice shoes. And the appropriate response in that moment is, thank you. What did I do instead, you're asking? Thanks. What? I think about that more than you would realize. That moment is stained in my memory. We all do this, right? We hold on to stuff. Some of it's really small and silly, like a stupid shoe compliment. Something we've said in the 7th grade that we still think about 2 a.m. But some of it isn't silly at all. Some of what we're carrying is really heavy. And we've held on to it so long that we've stopped noticing that it's even in our hands. And those things that we hold on to, both big and small, they tell us what we're disqualified from oftentimes. You're not the kind of person that gets that. You already blew it. People like you don't get a calling like that. And I just want to also do a preface. Good grief. Your first calling, I feel like I talk about this every single time I'm on this stage. Lord's trying to tell me something. Your first calling is not a job. It's not a career. It's not what you do on this earth, right? It's who you are in Jesus. That's your first calling, to live that out in your life. That's calling number 1. What we're talking about here is calling number 2, okay? So if we look at Joseph, if anyone has a right to hold on to their past, it's him. His list didn't include a stupid shoe compliment. He was thrown into a pit by his own brothers. He was sold off, accused of something that he didn't do, locked up and forgotten. Every one of those was a real disqualifier. And almost every single one of them was done to him. Joseph could have spent the rest of his life in that pit. Wallowing in it. Letting it tell him who he was and who he would never be. But the pit didn't get the final say in Joseph. And the thing that you're still holding on to doesn't get the final say over you. Because Jesus didn't just die for your sin, he died for your identity. He died to pry your fingers off the thing that you've been gripping, to restore your identity in him, to resurrect your purpose quietly and to take over that thing that you've chosen that you weren't allowed to have anymore. He isn't intimidated by the thing that you're still holding on to it. He's Lord over it. So instead of white-knuckling your dream, your calling, your purpose, or walking away in shame, what if you finally set the other thing down and said, Jesus, I trust you over my past and over my future. God's dream for Joseph was so much better than Joseph's dream for himself. Joseph dreamed of status, but God dreamed of salvation. Joseph thought he'd rule over his brothers, but God wanted to feed him, or to feed them in a famine. To forgive them from a healed heart. Joseph's dream didn't die. God took it and said, I'm going to do what only I can do here. I'm going to completely change it for the better. So I've got a challenge for you guys this week. It's a three-parter. Everyone say three-parter for me. Thank you. First thing, identity. What part of your past are you still letting define you? I want you to name it. It's about getting honest with yourself. This is the hard part of the talk. Like, oh, I gotta do some work here. Can't just sit here and listen. Pretend that I'm listening. What's that moment or mistake, the season, the shame, or even the silence that still has power over your sense of identity? Maybe it's something that you did, that decision that still haunts you, or maybe it's something that's happened to you. And you started to believe that's who you are now. You're still hearing that voice of that breakup, that failure, that addiction, that trauma, louder than the voice of God. And I don't want this to be about digging up guilt. It's about naming what is still shaping you so that you can surrender it to the one who already carried it. First thing was identity. The second thing was surrender. Name the dream. Name the disappointment. There's something that you've stopped praying for. A vision that you no longer talk about. A version of your life that maybe you've given up on because the pain got too loud and the timing didn't make sense. Maybe it was a dream to make a difference in your life. Maybe it was a hope for healing. Maybe it was a relationship or a family. Or maybe it wasn't a dream that hurt, but the disappointment that came when it didn't go your way. This is your moment to lay it down. To release your grip. Your hands are probably tired. And say, God, I trust that you want more than what I want. The last thing is trust. We've got identity, we've got surrender, we've got trust. I want you guys to say this out loud. Repeat after me. Jesus, you are over my past, and you're over my dreams. This is a declaration. Sorry, you don't have to repeat that. I should have clarified. Jesus, you're over my past and you're over my dreams. This is what you can say. You're not just saying a sentence, you're declaring who gets the final say in your life. Jesus, you are over my past means that your shame doesn't define you. Your wounds don't get to rule you anymore. Your failures don't get the last word. Jesus, you're over my dreams means he gets to shape them, stretch them, delay them, cancel them. But knowing that no matter what, God dreams of things far bigger in your life than you will ever imagine. And all we have to do is surrender. If you guys can stand. This is what faith looks like. This is what surrender looks like. This is oftentimes where healing begins. We don't let the past dictate our future anymore. And the future that is there, Lord, it's yours. Let's pray. God, thank you for this morning. Thank you for your provision in our lives. Thank you for taking hold of our past and saying that we don't have to carry it anymore, that the things that we have done don't disqualify us. Thank you for lording over our past and for shaping our future, God. I pray that we can release and surrender this morning. It's in your name I pray. Amen.